Did you ever wonder what it was like to use multiple InReach units as part of a team or a group or an organization out in the field, maybe see their position all on one map, send messages back and forth, maybe share things like contacts? Well, that's all part of the InReach Professional Plan. I switched my account to Professional Plan a few months ago. I've been using it, and I will share what I found with you in this video. Even if you have a consumer account now, it might make financial sense to switch over to a professional account. I'll show you that in a second or two. One of the important things to note with the professional plan versus consumer plan is that when you have a consumer plan, you can have multiple InReach devices all connected to that consumer account. Only one can be on at a time. So if you own, let's say 2 devices and you're going hiking and you want to keep one and give one to your partner, that requires 2 separate accounts, consumer accounts. But on the professional account, you can have multiple devices all hooked up to one account that gets billed just in one place. Each device can be on a different plan or can even be suspended if you're not using it. And that's like a big difference that's important on the professional plan, whether you're an organization where that makes sense, or even just a family where you want to have a couple of these ready to go at any point. With the consumer, it's a pain to do that. With professional, it's super easy. I'll show you that in a second. But let's go ahead and look at the pricing because that's interesting as well. Now, you can buy an InReach professional plan right from the InReach subscription, and you can also convert your existing consumer plan to a professional plan. But let's look at the different aspects here. One of the important things with the consumer is that you have a monthly plan, which they call the Freedom Plan, because you can pause it and then turn it back on. Or you can have the annual contract plan where you basically commit to having it on for a year. I'm going to skip this annual plan because the monthly Freedom Plan is more comparable to a professional plan because you can turn both of those on and off. Here is a comparison of the Consumer Safety and Professional Basic. This is the bottom tier, and then this is the middle tier. So the Consumer Safety Freedom, $14.95 a month, Professional Basic, $19.95. For the consumer plan, Freedom Plans, you pay $35 a year to have the privilege of turning it on and off. Whereas on the professional plan, you simply pay $5 a month for every month that it is suspended. So essentially, if you're going to suspend for less than 7 months, then it costs less than having a consumer plan. A little bit different on the basic plans here because the professional basic is $5 more a month, but it also has 10 more text messages. There's not a lot of difference in these 2 plans, but for the consumer recreation and professional advanced, it gets interesting, right? They're both $34.95. They both have 40 messages, unlimited tracking. They all have SOS as part of it. The professional is a $5 more activation fee. There's no fee for the Freedom Plan annual, and it's just $5 a month. So if you have a consumer recreation plan right now and you don't turn it off, you can save yourself that $35 a year by, just getting the professional plan. Let me see what it is with the contract here. Annual contract, consumer recreation, $24. $10. So you can do the math based on your usage. But it is interesting that if you're going to pause it and you're going to pause it less than 7 months a year, this professional would be cheaper than consumer, and you're going to get the same thing if you're using it more than a year. But you can crunch the numbers yourself. Obviously, they're going to be different for everyone, but interesting nonetheless. Let's check out the Explore site. This is a little bit different. We have some of the professional level support numbers here, which are different than the regular. The way to think about the professional account in terms of organization is that there is one owner of the account, which is the administrator. And then under that, you can have multiple users. And if I go to groups and users, you'll see I have different users here and I have them generic. And I read the Garmin documentation and they recommended that if you have different users, like swapping in and out on a device, just making generic users so you can hand them on and off. And then you simply have devices that are registered. If we go to plans and devices, we have devices that are registered and you can assign those to a user. So if we click here, you can assign a different user and I can assign this to any one of these users here. So it's easy to switch it. And you can also change the plan. You can see there's different plans over here. If I want to change the plan, I can go here and just switch it around and then it will be changed. And then obviously I can also go ahead and deactivate it. There's another concept called groups. If we go back to groups and users, We can create a new group and you can nest these groups. I already created this group West, and here I have the group and these are the users in the group. And one of the things, if we go to group settings and we go to edit, you can have a parent organization and you can allow the users in this group to see other users as contacts. So if you have users in a group, they will all show up as contacts on here after you sync your device. One of the things to note is that if you are a user, you have essentially your own InReach account. If you're one of the users on here, you sign into Garmin Explore and you sync with the InReach device, and then it'll sync all of these settings that we're talking about now onto the unit from Garmin Explore. The powerful thing about this is something called profiles. And profiles are essentially a grouping of settings that you can push out to the device. So if you have multiple devices, you don't have to go into each device individually and tweak the settings. You can tweak some of those centrally and just push all those changes out to the devices. Here is the profile screen. I have multiple profiles. You can set up as many as you'd like. One of the things I found very interesting is that if you have one of these older units, you can change the different settings here on the screen, on the home screen. The icons, you can take ones out. It's really powerful. And why this is not available on the newer devices like the 66 and 67, I don't know. I think that's a fail, but it is available on the old ones. But anyway, that's part of it. We can go to device settings and we can change different settings here, like which tracking interval settings are available. Message check, we can turn off message check, and we can do that for the older devices as well. For the older devices, again, we can change all these different settings, which we can't do on the newer devices. Again, it's a bit of a fail for the newer device users. The interesting thing, we can change the presets. So if you have a consumer account and it's a newer account, you can't change these. Garmin bakes in what they're called check-ins now, and you can't change them. If you have an older account, you still can, but if you have a professional account, you can go in and change the check-in text right here, and that'll get pushed out to all the devices that are part of this profile. And same thing with quick text. You can change the quick text around. And once you have this profile set up, or all these settings set up, if we go back to the group and we go to group settings and we do edit group, we can choose the profile right here, and then everyone in that group will be applied that profile. So it's very powerful. And if we want to override this, we can just go to individual user and we can choose their profile here. We can override it as well. And again, all I need to do is go to Garmin Explore, sync the device, and then all of that stuff will be pushed onto the device. Now, the one thing that's a little bit weird is contacts. So here's how you do shared contacts. We go back to groups, and I'm following what Garmin told me to do here. It's not entirely intuitive, but if you create a subgroup as part of your group and you put a new contact in there, that will be shared as part of this larger group West. And that does show up on the device, but that's how you do shared contacts in here. One disappointing thing is that you cannot share navigation information. So we can't push waypoints out to devices. We can't push routes out to devices. We can create them as part of the administrator account or any InReach account, and then just import them into each unit. But obviously that's not as slick as something like profiles. I wish that was included in profiles, but it is not. Another interesting thing is SOS settings. If we go into settings and then SOS setup, and we have our 2 emergency contacts here, we can also add some notes in here. 20 more people can know if an SOS gets triggered. And you can also opt in to search and rescue insurance for groups. Here it is, if you have multiple users. Pretty cool on that front. Let's look at the map, because the map is where it gets interesting. So here's the map page, and it looks a lot like your normal Garmin InReach map page for the Explore site, but you'll notice on the side, I have my group right over here. I have the users within the group. If you click on this plus and minus, it toggles everything off and on. It took me a little while to figure that out, but you can turn things on and off, and then you can go in just like you can on a regular account, and you can look at the different tracks and see what's happened down there. Another interesting thing is that there's a log on the bottom, so you can scroll through this log and see what happened over time, a little chronological log. You can also send a user a message. So if we go here and we go user 2, we can send them a message. You cannot do a group, so I can't do group West. Unfortunately, I have to do it by the users, so I can't blast the whole group. No group messaging here. I can also add a note, charging batteries, whatever, and then add note. So if you want to add things to the log, you can do that, and you can see it all on here. And otherwise, everything is pretty much the same up on this. We have our shared context, whatever it might be. And this is your standard Explorer map right here. And if you don't want to use this map, if you want to use something a little bit more custom, if you go into settings and then Portal Connect, and then change your outbound settings, you can hook this up, this professional account up with CalTopo, and it goes under live tracks here. If you go to add and then locator, it will give you different ways to add live tracking into this. So you could go in and create your own very custom CalTopo map and then track users like we have here. This is just a simple track from this morning, but you could see tracking ourselves all over, or multiple users on here would be an option. So that's another cool feature that you can do. I'll put a link to the support article on CalTopo on how to set this up, but it's really pretty easy. Now, of course, if this doesn't fit into what you need for your organization, you can call them and they can come up with a custom solution for you, them being Garmin. What this is called the byte level plan. And essentially, instead of paying on a message-based situation, you're paying for the data that you transfer. And switching to this plan gives you some more options and some more flexibility. One of the things you can do is do team tracking. So that means seeing other people on the team on your device. But the catch is it only works on the older devices that we saw earlier. So only on the Explorer Plus or the SE. Let me show you what it looks like. And I can only do this through a screen account because I don't have those units anymore and I don't have a byte-based plan. But this is what it looks like when you do that. And you can do that with a byte-based plan. Again, why this isn't available on the newer devices, I don't know why. It seems like a pretty easy thing to do. I'm hoping there's going to be a new generation of InReach devices that maybe are set up for groups, whether you're a professional account or maybe just, friends out in the field being able to communicate. You can obviously still do that. You can do InReach to InReach messaging. You can do group messaging using the Messenger app across to InReaches, and you can also send messages to another InReach device with your location and be able to navigate to that location, with your InReach device. If you have one that has maps on it, it'll bring you on trails. If you have something like this InReach Mini, it's going to give you a straight line to that location, but you are able to do that with a regular consumer account now. So that's what I have. If you have any experience using these professional accounts that you'd like to share with the community, please leave a comment of your experience. Obviously, I've just used this in a limited sense. I don't have a big team. It's just me out there fooling around with it. So whatever you can add to the conversation, I'd appreciate it. I did learn about this because I saw U.S. Fish and Game, Wildlife, whatever the service is, using them with InReach Explorers out in the field. I've talked to a few different people. If you're one of those guys, how you doing? Thank you for the info. But they have Explorers and they would use them out in the field and they were happy with them. They could see each other on the map and they could communicate back and forth. They said generally it works within a couple minutes, sometimes 40 minutes, sometimes an hour in a challenging situation, but it always works and it was reliable. So interesting to know. And guys, if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. I don't know everything about this, but I'll do my best. And thanks for watching and I'll see you out there.